Okay, what's up, everybody? My name is Rob. I'm in recovery from a gambling addiction, and today I'm going to be taking questions from the community about gambling, gambling addiction, and addiction recovery. Basically, whatever you guys want to know. So happy to have you here. We already have some questions in the chat, but if you're here, do me a favor and leave a like on the video. Feel free to drop a question, whether you're watching live or on the replay. Let's see. Does the brain really adapt to winning and cause me to feel nothing? They say slot was like crack cocaine and gambling. Absolutely. I've heard that many, many times that slots have been referred to as the crack cocaine of gambling, and your brain really does adapt to the gambling. It's not necessarily to winning or losing, but it's that thrill, that level of dopamine that gets released from placing that next bet. Your brain absolutely can get used to it. And this is exactly why this happened. What essentially happened is you've built up a tolerance towards the gambling. And so you have to gamble larger amounts or riskier or more often in order to sustain that feeling of excitement, that feeling of thrill, which used to be easier to accomplish from gambling less. But it's because you've become used to it 100%. The beautiful thing about it is, though, once you stop gambling, your brain will begin to reset itself back to that previous level of dopamine tolerance, meaning it'll get easier as you continue to stay away from it, and you're going to crave it less and less and less. But it does take time. Shreya, welcome to the chat. Happy to have you. And to everyone that's tuning in right now, I'm happy that you're taking the time to stop in. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions about gambling, gambling addiction, addiction recovery, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm going to make a weekly live stream here on YouTube and Facebook, much more of a priority in the schedule because I want to make sure that we're connecting as a community. So if you're here and you're a part of this community, I thank you genuinely very deeply for being here and supporting this message. So you went back to horse racing on Christmas Eve, had some wins, but lost everything and couldn't leave. I understand that very, very well. I mean, it's the main problem, right? Whenever you gamble, there's always a chance that you'll win. But if you keep gambling, you will always end up losing because of the way that the games are statistically designed and or probabilistically, whatever that word might be. The probabilities of the game are such that you will lose if you keep playing. I know that very, very well. And unfortunately, it happens when you might drink in recovery, right? It can lower your defenses. It can make you more likely to go and do it. So putting in a plan ahead of time is really important for this, right? If you were super drunk that night, but previously before going, you knew, okay, look, I don't want to have access to my bank account tonight. I want to be with someone that knows I have a gambling problem that'll keep me in check. And I want to make sure I go to a support group meeting the day before so I'm not feeling as strong of a temptation. These are all things that could have helped even when those urges do arrive. It's it's not ideal to fight gambling urges, I don't think, but to be prepared for if they do happen. Mm. Do you have to have any help to not gamble, or can you handle it yourself? Well, I mean, you don't necessarily need to get professional help, but I don't think that it's the best idea to try to do it totally yourself either. Support groups, free support group meetings were what I did in the beginning and made a huge impact to have people to talk to, but also to be accountable to. Is it possible to recover on your own? Probably. But is it more difficult? Yeah. I told myself hundreds of times that I'd stop gambling and then went back to it. Matthew, thank you so much for being here and for supporting the channel. Anyone that's here that's leaving a like on the video, that's subscribed or following, you are helping me to get this message out to more people. It's incredibly rewarding to do this work, and I love that it's getting to more people every single day. So thank you for being here. Have I watched Squid Game? Seems to have important messages about greed and human psychology. Absolutely. I watched the first season, and we're currently, my girlfriend and I, watching the second season. We got through the first 3.5 episodes. I think we stopped halfway. It's been good, and there's lots of references to gambling addiction. There's lots of references to gambling itself. Um, I'll try to make some videos on it. I think it could be a pretty interesting deep dive. Maybe a reaction to the overall plot. I'm not quite sure what I would do with it, but absolutely. Am I from Philly? South Jersey. So I live in Philly now. I just went over today and recorded footage at the Eagles tailgate. They're playing the Cowboys right now. And we're going to be using it in a documentary that we're filming that's basically going to be asking the question of what will happen to gambling addicts if nothing changes about it, the way that it's marketed, the way that it's pushed as normal. And we got some pretty interesting footage today at the tailgate, as you might expect, running into a bunch of drunk Eagles fans. Let's see. Are the near misses a common phenomenon? Like you have a combination bet and you only miss by one goal, for example. So a parlay, yes. Um, so Chris, the strongest psychological trick that casinos play is this near miss fallacy. So yes, it's incredibly common. It's designed into the slot machines and it's naturally designed into parlays or accumulator bets, right? Because if you have four legs and you hit three and you lose by one, you just lost. Next time it'll surely be different. It actually triggers in the brain of a problem gambler more dopamine to almost win than it does to actually win. So parlays are what's heavily marketed by casinos because they are the most addictive form of sports betting because they have the most near misses. So yes, they are incredibly common. They're designed into slot machines and they're naturally designed into sports betting now. Mm. Been addicted for 14 years. I was only able to stay on the 12-step program for a year. Attempts on my own always end up with an empty account. So, Marcin, what sent you back to gambling from the 12-step program? Were you working the steps and you decided, I don't like this anymore, I'm going to go back? Like, what is it that sent you back before I can really dive deeper on that? Did I clean my debts in 788 days? Yes, I was debt free from gambling around 6.5 months after my last bet. So on November the 12th, 2022, I had my last gamble. And about 6 months after that, 7 months after that, I was good in terms of debts. But then, I was starting from zero. Things are looking up now that I'm not losing money anymore on a regular basis. Because I used to gamble like 8 hours a day, for those of you that don't know, that haven't seen too many of my videos yet. Congratulations on getting yourself that first 8 days, almost 9 days, my friend. Congrats. Keep that rolling. Anyone that is kind of early on in the recovery journey knows just how difficult it is to get through that first couple weeks. I just want to commend you for taking the time, putting in that work for yourself. That's awesome, my friend. Guys, feel free to ask any questions you have about gambling, gambling addiction, or addiction recovery. I'm going to be talking for the next hour or so about it. So do me a favor, if you're here and you want to support the channel, leave a like or a reaction on this video. Feel free to ask any questions that you might have. Yeah, we need a Squid Game breakdown video. We're gonna have to see what we can do about that. Let's see. So people will ask, I lost a certain amount of money. Does that mean I need to quit? I can't tell you what to do because if I tell you, then you're going to blame me, right? You're going to say, oh, well, I would have won money if I didn't listen to that schlub on the internet. Or if you lose, you're going to be like, oh, well, this is probably Rob's fault, right? So I never tell anyone what to do. All I will tell you is that if you keep gambling, you will eventually lose more money. That's realistically all I can say. It is a fact. Statistically, you will lose money if you keep going. Great question. Great question here. Found your channel through the reaction to Drew Gooden. So that was the reaction to the online gambling epidemic video he put out. Do you think different forms of gambling can get you addicted faster or slower than others? This is a question that doesn't really have a firm answer. What most experts will say is that slot machines are the most addictive form of gambling. I think that the reason that is just the speed of play. And I think that the frequency and speed of play will determine your addictiveness to it or the game's addictiveness. So whatever's happening fastest is likely where you will see the problems happening the fastest, if that makes sense. It's kind of like an input output situation. So sports betting is equally addictive as slot machines are, but slot machines typically move faster. So you might get addicted to it faster or recognize your addiction faster, if that makes sense. ATP WTA tennis is back. You'll stay strong. Congratulations on staying strong, Alex. I know the feeling. Tennis was basically the sport that I bet on the most because it's around all year, whether it's ATP or ITF or whatever the Challenger League they have is called. It was something that I was gambling on a lot when I was active, and it really wasn't that enjoyable. It was just accessible. To anyone that's struggling with a gambling problem, realistically, there's four things you need to focus on. Finding alternatives for your time, limiting your access to money that will tempt you, limiting your access to gambling by self-excluding from the casinos, and going to support group meetings. Those four things together will make a huge impact. That's what I do. Great question, Jack. I'm not going to say your last name, but you got a good pun going on there. How do you deal with the feeling of guilt? I could have bought that thing or I could have saved more. 100%. And it's tough. You're kind of faced with two options. You can beat yourself up over it and you can be miserable and add more problems to your plate. Or you can say, That's the amount that I had to lose to learn my lesson. There's no, like, rainbow, sunshine, gumdrop way for me to answer this question that's gonna make you feel good because it's a shitty situation. But you have the choice to make right now. Do you want to make it worse on yourself, or do you wanna use it as a learning lesson? I wanna use it as a learning lesson. That's why I make this content. Starting the new year, quitting gambling. Last day was Friday night. Leave a comment in the chat if your New Year's resolution has to do with either reducing or stopping your gambling. I'm not one to think that you can reduce your gambling as a problem gambler, but you never know what people might set as their goals. So I'm interested to hear what people got going into the next year. How can you get self compassion back? Gambling made me hate myself, and what has become of me? Again, it's like the same as the feeling of guilt, right? I can't give you one answer that's going to make you happy, that's going to make you love yourself again. But I can tell you that once you stop screwing yourself on a daily basis, you'll have feelings of regret, but you're not stacking them up. You're not adding to the pile. And I think that gradually over time, that self compassion comes back as you begin to be a better person, do better things with your time, help people with your time. If you want your self compassion back, don't put yourself in more situations where you're going to hurt that. Let it grow back naturally as you begin to do things to actually help the world. That sounded really corny, but it will come back, my friend. Please, please trust that. Mm, 3.5 months sober. Congratulations. And you called your girl from an online fellowship that you feel connected. Awesome. Congratulations. Not everyone likes the 12 steps, but once you find people that you like within those meetings, it's typically what sends you back. I worked through the steps, but what really helped me, I think, was trying to be a better person, doing something meaningful with my time, and staying accountable to others. You will lose your money in the stock market too. Lee, certainly the way that I was doing the stock market, you're going to lose your money, right? So there's a couple of ways you can look at it. And I think where you draw the line between gambling and investing is your timeline. When I was gambling, I would buy short dated stock options, right? Like 1 or 2 days till their expiration before some major event like a Federal Reserve announcement, and the price would go crazy. It was basically like a coin flip or like a slot machine, to be honest. But now I have investments. I'm buying and holding assets in a 401k. Is that gambling? By pure definition, I mean, you're risking money technically. But in a situation where you're going to buy and hold it for such a long time, you're kind of battling against the inherent risk of it. So I think you draw a line based on your time frame. If you're trying to double up your money real quick, you're probably gambling. Let's see. I want to answer this because I get it all the time, right? So a lot of times when I post content online, especially on like TikTok and Instagram Reels is the worst. But there's comments to the extent of like, "Hey, you're a quitter, you're a loser. Anyone who quits gambling sucks. You're just a bad gambler. Like, don't stop gambling until you win big." There's two kind of buckets, right? The first bucket is you're making content online. People are going to troll you. That's just how it is. I can't really think about it too much. Everyone gets trolled in a certain way. They're just following an internet meme and trying to get a cheap laugh. Then there's the other side, and it's the people that genuinely believe that I suck at gambling and that they're good. And so they used to offend me, these kinds of comments, because I didn't get that many comments. So when I saw something like that, I was all mad. Now I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm terrified for this person. Because if you truly believe that you're going to make money gambling, if you're falling for this trap online where you're signing up with someone's code, you're buying picks, you're thinking that you're going to come out on top, it's only a matter of time until it comes crashing down. And so I'll like poke back. I'll be a little rude or condescending sometimes, but the door is always open on the account because you might be winning right now and you might think, oh, this kid just sucks. A week later, you might lose all your money and you might think maybe he had a point. So, I'll beef with people online, but to be honest, it's all about just trying to do a good thing. Is gambling awareness your full-time job now? Yes, Peter, it is. I'm very, very fortunate that that's the case. I'm able to support myself by doing basically functioning as a marketing firm for organizations. I never want to charge problem gamblers for anything that I do because I know From my own experience, we don't have any money. Like we gambled our money away. That's why we're in this situation. I was digging myself out of debt like every couple months for 6 years. So it's all about working with businesses to try to stay afloat. But yes, this is my full time work. Is heredity a factor? Yes, it is, Michael. I don't claim to have the scientific knowledge to tell you why, but it does play a factor, but it's not the only factor. I know that anyone can develop a gambling addiction. Thanks so much for this comment, my friend. The fact that you said that it made you feel less alone in your struggle was one of the original reasons why I started creating content. When I was struggling with my gambling problem actively, I looked around and I saw only people winning, people talking about how much fun they're having, how great it is. The commercials reinforced that you're going to win big. So I thought I was just a freak. I thought I was the only person on earth with a gambling problem. It's totally not true. There's millions of people struggling with this, like kind of in silence, but I didn't know. And so making this content, I wanted to let people know that if you are struggling, you're not a weirdo. This is what's supposed to happen if you keep gambling. And we had a couple questions come in on a community post that I made. Trey, thank you for rephrasing them. Are you ever afraid of a relapse or turning it into a coping mechanism in bad times? Am I ever afraid of a relapse? No. I've relapsed enough times to know that you don't need to be afraid of it. It's something you should actively seek to avoid happening. But if you're just sitting around being nervous and fearful all the time, you're just keeping it on the top of your mind, to be honest. Is it a coping mechanism for me? Not at this point. I don't think it ever was, though, in fairness. My gambling was like my way of trying to find identity, my way of trying to prove myself to win big. I didn't really gamble to escape my present reality because my reality wasn't so bad. I was gambling to prove something or like a sense of competition. So it's never something I used as a coping mechanism, but I do feel like I need to become better still at navigating anger, navigating bad times. So, I just started therapy again because I need that. I know how to not gamble. That doesn't mean I have all the problems solved. You know what I mean? What kind of responsibility or accountability should be imposed on streamers who promote gambling on YouTube? This is tough because I don't genuinely believe that the majority of gambling streamers know that they're causing damage. I think the average gambling streamer is genuinely pretty stupid, like in fairness, and they're just entertaining an audience doing something that they enjoy doing. I think that as a whole, there's not really much that can be done other than banning the streams completely. Which YouTube and Twitch ban live streaming slots, but they allow the highlights. The system is totally broken though. It's really tough to pick like one thing to try to fix or hold accountable if the entire system is based on lying to your audience, even if you don't realize like how much damage you're actually causing. I don't really think they can be held accountable other than, literally banning it, but free speech or whatever. What new things filled my time? I lagged a little bit there. All right, back. What new things filled my time when I cut out gambling? Mm, when I first stopped gambling, I started making this content, and that became a lot of my time. So that's like hours and hours a day. But going to more restaurants, seeing more movies, reading more, trying to hit the gym more. It's never it's never too consistent, but I can get there. Walking a lot more, a lot of walking, pickleball, hot yoga. Really though, like what you should do if you're looking for your own things to do without gambling is think back to what you used to do before you started. And they're not going to feel as good in the beginning. They're going to feel like boring or wow, I want to gamble. This isn't the same as gambling. Of course, it's not the same as gambling. And if you tried to replace it with something that was equally as thrilling, you'd get addicted to that too. So understanding that life is going to feel stale at first in recovery is a difficult but really important thing that you need to consider. Oh, let me crack that neck a little bit. All right, guys, do me a favor if you're here right now, please leave a like on this video. And if you're not yet subscribed, smash that subscribe button or follow button, depends on where you're watching this video. It really does a lot to support the channel and it helps spread this message to more people that might be struggling with a gambling problem or might just be gambling and don't know that they're developing a problem. This page has now become an awareness page where I want to help stop addiction. That's the overall goal. Pretty lofty. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. I think I'm like 10 minutes behind on the comments. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit to get us back to the present day. But if I missed your question, please just rephrase it. I'm going to be trying to keep up. So let's see. Question from the YouTube community from Shreya. If I could go back in time, knowing what I know now, would I tell my past self to stop gambling right after a big jackpot? I don't really think that I would have listened to myself. It's kind of tough, right? If you think about it logically, who would win a bunch of money and then think, this is terrible, I should stop? What I would do is try to find myself after a big loss. Because during the times that I lost, I would tell myself all kinds of lies to justify gambling again. I would say something like, you know, that was just bad luck. Or, oh, you should have known this would happen. Like, just change it for the next time. It was never that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. It was always some little excuse to justify trying again. So I would try to find myself during one of those points and say, hey, dude, it goes the same way every single time. Why are you doing this again? Do I think that gamblers have a big ego? I did. Yeah. I thought I was a great gambler. I'd figure it all out. No one could tell me anything. I'd win big and it would solve all my problems in life. 100%. So overcoming that ego is a very big part of recovery because you have to accept that, hey, this thing that I desperately want to win at is destroying my life. I need to give that up, even if that kind of admits that I'm not going to win, which is really tough to overcome, especially with sports bettors, right? Because we think we have some skill, we have some way of seeing these patterns that no one else can see. It's just us. It's just so trash. Had a relapse after 1 year. It was the worst one. Should I finally talk about my problems like with my parents? Been silent for 10 years and ashamed to talk about it. Greetings from Germany. Hello, my friend from Philadelphia in the United States. I told my parents pretty early on, and it added an extra layer of accountability that I needed. It's not going to be an easy conversation, especially if you have debts right now, especially if you borrowed or stolen money from them. But it really will make a difference. And they might be mad, they might react not how you want them to react, but overcoming that initial fear is a pretty big step, in my opinion. And I think it's going to help if you do it. So I would say yes, but be careful with it. If it's a delicate situation. It's over 700 days. Do I feel the urge to gamble again? Nah, not really. So here's the thing. I now am fully aware that the casino and the sports books are statistically designed for me to lose. I do not feel any temptation to go and gamble on that. But I do still struggle with the stock market. The stock market is not inherently designed that I have to lose like a casino is. But the way that I was trading stocks was like flipping a coin, and it was only a matter of time until I would lose it. So every once in a while, when I see some stock news, I'll feel an urge. But what I did to battle that was I do all my investing in retirement accounts. So I'm like, great, I could get rich, and then it'll take me 40 years until I can use it. So what the hell is the point? And so now that's that insulation of having it be in an account that I'm not withdrawing and adding from right away has really helped me to battle those urges. But that's really it. I don't feel the urges with sports like I used to. Let's see. Just emptied my entire savings on sports betting. Lost it all. Feel terrible. Wondering if I should tell my parents about this. Again, back to the conversations. It's important to be honest with people, especially in recovery. Doesn't mean that it's going to be a good conversation. Doesn't mean it's going to go the way you want it to go. But I think there's value in it, especially in just facing the fear of like putting it out in the open that you have a problem. Once we shine a light on things, it takes away a lot of the power. A lot of the suffering is in our own head. Yes, like the video, please. It's like ridiculous how much it actually pushes it out to more people if you hit the like button. I feel like a beggar saying, please like my video, please give me a like, give me a subscription, please. But it helps a ton. And it's how we've gotten to this point so far. We're pushing 17,000 subscribers on YouTube. Hopefully, we hit that by the end of the year. Next year, we're going to take it, we're going to blow it up. Hopefully, we get millions and millions of people into a situation where they're learning about gambling addiction so that they don't get hooked. Because let's face it, there's millions of people that gamble that could get addicted if they go down that path. Mm. Let's see. Drake likes to show his big losses on sports betting. He gets paid by the casino to make it fun. He's not gambling with his own money. Yeah. Those streamers, the way that a typical streamer deal is structured is they get a contract, which is in a certain amount of money. For Drake, it's like $300 million to stream X number of days a week on that casino. And then that money is completely separate to the money they gamble with on the platform. That's given to them on a nightly basis, like game tokens from the casino. And then he gets paid bonuses based on when people sign up with his code and then lose money. So yeah, it's all pretty much a lie. Would I ever visit a casino if it's a night out with friends? Given like the state of things, there's a casino sitting in front of me right now, right? Like I could actually like right now while I'm live streaming, open a tab and start gambling if I wanted to. So the general advice has always been to avoid gambling establishments, but now it's impossible just given the fact that it's everywhere. But still, I probably wouldn't put myself in that situation anyway. It's just not worth it. If my friends desperately wanted to go to a casino, I would just find them another night. There's plenty of other things we can do. I still drink. We could go to bars if that's like what you're trying to do. I would just skip it, and I'm okay with that. It is what it is. But it's just like, is it worth the risk of being right in front of what could destroy you? I don't know. I don't think so. So what are the steps to get rid of gambling? If you want to stop gambling, here's the 4 things that I did, and I've made plenty of videos on the YouTube channel about this if you want to dive deeper into them. But first is to find other things to do with your time that are meaningful to you, even if they don't feel that great at first. Second is to limit your access to money. So I had my family controlling my bank account for like the first 6 months after I stopped gambling, and I only carried cash because when I would have an urge, I couldn't deposit onto an online casino anymore. I was only carrying a couple $100 of cash, which were needed for my bills, for my groceries, XYZ. Third is to self-exclude from the casinos that you play at. So that is voluntarily banning yourself from the casinos. And it's saying like, hey, don't let me gamble here anymore. So making it more difficult for yourself to place that bet. And fourth is to find a support group meeting that you can go to, build a community, and be accountable to others. I go to a meeting every Tuesday night still. I try to get there as much as I can in person. And we talk about what was going on that week, what kind of urges people were feeling. When new people come in, they're talking about their story, what just happened. And I'm still going 2.5 years into this. So it's more than that. It's almost been 3 years since I first started going to those meetings. February 8th, 2022 was my first support group meeting. But those 4 things really make an impact. So finding alternatives for your time, limiting your access to money that'll tempt you, self-excluding, and going to support group meetings. Does Gamban work in Nigeria? I don't see why it shouldn't. Yeah, I think it should. And once again, right now, I'm not financially affiliated with Gamban, but I love the product. Love Matt and Jack, the co-founders of it. So in the future, I'm sure we're going to end up working together again. But right now, there's no financial incentive for me to tell you this. I just like the product. Can I touch on the subject of backsliding? So, like relapsing or lapsing, I think you should just call it relapsing. It is what it is. But the idea of like getting a bunch of progress and then saying, or then experiencing a time where you're gambling and you're right back into it, you have to learn from the experience or it meant nothing. And so what I mean by that is like, when I had my relapse on November the 12th, 2022, if I didn't learn anything from it, I would have done it again. What I realized was I was bored. I was feeling sorry for myself. I was feeling broke. And all those things together led me to the temptation to go and gamble. So I had to put barriers in place for when those temptations would arise again. Any kind of relapse or backslide, it is what it is, right? You can beat yourself up over it. You can ruin your next day thinking about what you did. Or you can say, okay, I screwed up. Here's why I screwed up. Let me use that to help in the future. Make it objective. Take the emotion out of it. Figure out what happened and use that to your advantage. Take your negatives and turn them into positives. Let's see. Have my relationships with friends and family Improved since I stopped gambling. Yeah, I'd say they have. And the reason that they improved isn't because like they were like, ew, he was a gambler and now he's not. Like now I can like him. It was more when I was gambling, I didn't care about the structure of those relationships as much because I was more preoccupied with gambling. And so relationships naturally improve when you put more effort into them. And I think that's basically what it was. It was nothing magical, it was just more time. Is playing in a poker tournament good or bad if you're a gambling addict? So is gambling good or bad if you're a gambling addict? It's bad. Very, very, very bad. Not good, bad. How do you feel about imitation gambling? So in the beginning, I thought that this would be a better idea, right? I thought, oh, I'll just play a fake slot machine to help me get the urges out. Um, it turned out that after I spoke to a doctor, that was a very bad idea. The reason that it's bad isn't because you're losing money, because you're not, if it's imitation, if it's fake, right? But it's because you're not giving your brain a chance to heal. If your brain is still thinking about gambling, experiencing the gambling emotions, the firing off of the dopamine, it's like you never left. And it's only a matter of time, really, until that goes back and reverts back into real money. So it's not actually a good idea. It prolongs the problem. Do I still have cravings? No, not at this point. It's been two plus years. So my cravings really began to fade after about 4 months, I think. Why do we keep going back to the same machine in the same casino, hoping that the money, hoping to get the money back that the machine owes us? I think there's a couple of points we can make here. So why do we keep going back to the same machines? We're problem gamblers. We get a thrill from it. We get a release of dopamine. We feel good doing it. Why do you go back to the same machine? Gambler's fallacy. So the way that the machines are built, they're supposed to take a certain percentage of money over a long, long period of time, like millions of spins. But what problem gamblers will tell ourselves is like, all right, I lost on this last time because this machine's only supposed to take a small percentage. I'm bound to win this time because I lost last time, right? I can't lose every time I gamble. But that statistic, that truth applies over millions of spins, not your couple of hundred spins. And so it's a false belief we tell ourselves that we have a better chance of winning. It's like progressive jackpots, right? Oh, the number's so high, so I'm going to win now if I go and pick this one. Like it's bound to pop eventually. It's all gambler's fallacy. It's us tricking ourselves into the next bet. Did I lose the value of money while gambling? Yes, 100%. That's part of the casino structure, right? Like, why do you use poker chips when you go to a casino instead of cash? It's so that you decouple it from the value that it actually has. And it's the same with like online. It feels like game tokens, right, or credits, because you're only seeing a number on the screen, not losing cash that's parting from your hand. So it naturally will come back as you begin to pay off debts, and you're like, "Holy crap! It takes me a long time to make this amount of money." But yeah, it's all part of the psychological process. You begin to dissociate from the reality of money. Professional gamblers are scammers, liars, or delusional. So anyone that's a professional gambler will likely say, "Hey, look at all my wins. Look, I have the way to prove it, and you can win too. Sign up for my program, and I'll teach you how to win or how to bet with my strategy." And then you have to ask yourself, why would they need to sell this strategy if it's such a good strategy? Why don't they just gamble more? And you realize professional gamblers are holding that appearance because they're great marketers. They want to sell something else, whether that's a product, a service, or simply maintaining your attention and your following on socials. I think they're scammers and liars. Mm, Let's see. Which important values had you self betrayed through gambling? So, when I was gambling, one thing that I did a lot, which you can probably relate to if you have an issue, is I would steal money from people. I'm calling it stealing. Like, I didn't take it out of their purses or whatever, but I'd say, hey, I need money for rent. I would lie and then immediately go and gamble with the intention of paying them back after I lost or after I won, rather. So, it was like, I was consistently doing things that misaligned with my values, and I justified it by saying that it would all get fixed by winning big. And so it created this loop where I didn't think I was doing a bad thing because I was going to give it back to them. And you see that a lot with people who have gone to prison for gambling related issues. Usually it's stealing money, and usually they'd say they're borrowing it, right? We're going to give it back after we win. Oh, this is actually really interesting, right? There's no way you can lose 5 hands in a row. You can just double it till you get your bankroll back. Well, one, you can lose 5 hands in a row. You could lose 100 hands in a row. Is it likely? No, but you can. That's the issue, though. Why don't you just keep doubling it until you get it back? That's why there's table limits. That's the exact reason there's table limits, and that's why casinos always come out on top. Because you could take the strategy of doubling until infinity until you get your money back. But because of the limits, you'll hit a point where you can't double anymore. And at that point, the casino is going to make more profit off of you as you're chasing your losses anyway. But yeah, that's why. It's because of table limits and you don't have infinity dollars. So eventually it'll go to shit. Do you have any advice on how to avoid scratch tickets? That's your issue. They're available pretty much anywhere you go. Christina, in this case, it's not so much about avoiding the scratch tickets as it is about maintaining control over your resources to acquire them. So you can't avoid them. They're going to be everywhere. But if you have a Visa gift card that can only be used in person at a cashier's desk and it can't be exchanged for cash, all of a sudden you get that urge to go and place a scratcher and you don't have the $5. You don't have it. So you can't use it to gamble. So it's all about preparing ahead of time. You're literally not going to be able to avoid gambling anymore, but you can set yourself up so that when the temptations arise, you can't act on them. That's the best advice that I think I could give there because it is not avoidable. Yeah, people don't understand return to players based on billions of spins. So even if it's 96%, you can and will lose everything. And Ozzy, like, even on that point, right? If it's 96% and every time you hit a spin, you're expected to lose 4%, it's only a matter of time until that approaches zero, right? It will always approach zero, even if the machine is only supposed to take 4% in the long run. It's very difficult to explain, but you will eventually lose your money, which that should be straightforward. Yeah, same logic people use to cook the books at work. I got to pay my employees. It's all kinds of like borrowing from here to pay it back later kind of situations when it comes to problem gambling, and it is tough. Guys, do me a favor if you're here, leave a like on the video, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. It does wonders for helping us reach more people. And if you're on YouTube, please smash that subscribe button. We're chasing after that 17,000 subscriber mark before the end of the year. We just need a couple hundred more people, or less than a couple hundred. I think it's a couple dozen more people, actually. So we'll get there. But it does wonders for getting this out. And I'm going to keep answering questions about gambling, gambling addiction, and addiction recovery for the next 25 minutes or so. When does my episode of Dr. Phil get released? It's out already on their Merit Plus website. I didn't love it. It was just okay. It didn't really dive very deep, which was the problem. Which is why I'm filming my own documentary right now to be released on YouTube. Hopefully in the next couple weeks. We were just filming over at the Eagles game today. Can I discuss how I invested in the stock market that was problematic? Yes, buying short-dated options before major events like earnings releases or Federal Reserve like interest rate meetings. I was buying IPOs, risky biotech stocks, putting over leveraging myself, trading on leverage in the crypto market, buying shit coins. Is like all the worst things that you could do to try to get a quick return on investment. I never thought about long-term investing. It was always how can I make my money really, really fast. Yet I thought I was above a get rich quick scheme, right? Like it was mental dissonance. Oh, I'm too smart for this. I'll do the dumbest thing possible because I'm the one that's going to figure it out. Like that's the kind of shit I was doing. Have I considered hosting support group meetings myself? I think there's value to it. I imagine that it would scale to the point where it would become what's that economics term? Economies of scale. It was something to that extent. If it becomes too big, it will be too large to be considered an actual support group meeting, and it will be something that actually doesn't help people as much as a regular meeting would. But I'm also thinking about opening like a Discord where people can come and chat with each other. And then what I really want to do is get feedback on content so that I can make more effective content to help more people. So I want to make a Discord where basically I set up watch parties of new videos with people and like I react with the video live and we get feedback. But in terms of like a full-on support group meeting, I don't know. I feel like people would be better served to go to a smaller meeting where they can really speak and express themselves. Let's see. Do I think there will be a gambling crisis in the future? I think we're in a gambling crisis right now, and there will be a larger gambling crisis in the future. So, right now, we're seeing the normalization and the mass legalization of gambling. We're at a point where if you're not gambling on games, you're considered weird. If you are someone that won't gamble, you're a loser or you're a quitter, right? These are the things that you'll hear right now. I don't think we're very far away from gambling companies merging with streaming companies. And I think that's going to create a major problem. We see like FanDuel TV, right? Like that's the beginning of it. If you watch a game, like a baseball game on Apple right now, you'll see stats that pop up in the bottom corner of the screen that say something like strikeout probability, like 67%, right? I don't think we're very far away from you taking your remote, hitting up, enter, and having a bet placed. I think we're going to see the most damage done when the friction ends. And it's not download our app and sign up. It's just hit enter on your TV remote and you place your first bet. Once it's one click, or if there's VR and AR where you're just like thinking about placing a bet and then it does it, like, that's the kind of problems that we're going to see happening. The future of gambling is going to be high pace, high frequency, high amount gambling happening seamlessly through technology. It's going to be really, really bad. But I think we're in a crisis right now. Ooh, all right, Kevin, this is interesting. You think that watching the slot channels is helping you reduce your urges to gamble. I thought that too. And what I realized when I was honest with myself is that I was doing it to live vicariously through them. And what I mean by that is it wasn't necessarily making me want to gamble, but I was feeling something. I was feeling a thrill, feeling some excitement, some interest in it. And it made me want to be in their position. I was playing with fire. And I think had I continued to go down that path, it might have led me into temptations to go back to gambling. Because in fact, I can remember I was watching streamers when I gambled and I'd play the same games that they were playing, right? I'd watch like AZ or Exposed and I would watch them streaming games like Fruit Party or like Doghouse Megaways, like these dumbass games, right? But when I would watch it, I'd be so excited about it that I got a VPN and I started gambling on stake, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that I was doing. I don't think it's worth doing it. And if you're honest with yourself, ask what am I getting from this? And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and it helps you, it helps you. But that's my experience with it. Could I get very drunk but still have no urge to gamble? I can tell you from lived experience, yes. I've gotten quite drunk in the recent history, but it has not led me to an urge to gamble. But I've also been through this up and down enough times to know that gambling is just not for me anymore. So if you're early on in your recovery, drinking can lead to temptations for sure. Also, be careful not to just develop a drinking problem because that's if you're running away from the issues that led you to gambling, you might develop another addiction to something. But at this point, yes, I can drink without an urge to gamble. Maybe I should drink less. Watching others gamble will help for just a moment. It changes nothing, and in the end, you're going to gamble anyway. That's kind of how I felt about it, Kim. I uh, I felt like it was just a matter of time watching those until I saw something that was exciting enough that would have led me back into it. Let's see. My problem is now trying to stay away from free hotels. It can't be done, but I'm going to try it today. So this idea of comps, the free things that casinos give you, whether it's free play, a free stay, like free meals, they're not doing it to be nice or because they think you're cool. They're doing it to lure you back into losing your money. It might feel like it's you're giving up so much because you're giving up luxury, you're giving up these hotel rooms that they've overpriced by $500 on the listing site to make it feel better for the problem gamblers that they're giving the free hotels to. But realistically, they're just trying to trap you. They're trying to get more money from you. You're not being given a gift. You're not being rewarded. You're being trapped. Don't fall for it. That's all I can say on that. Do you think there are different reasons why people fall into gambling addiction, or most people just play for the money? And there are two main reasons. There's probably more than two, but there's two that's like been written about very, very often, which are escape and action gamblers. So an escape gambler is someone that gambles to escape reality. It's someone that might play a slot machine to dissociate, to just focus on the game, to zone out for a while, to feel better emotionally. Then there's the action gamblers that want to win big. They want to prove they can beat this system that shouldn't be beat. They can prove that they know about sports. They can prove that they're good. They're competitive. They're action oriented. The game's blackjack. They're trying to use strategy, their brains to beat it. That's what I was doing a lot. But you know, a gambling problem is really not about money at all. It's about the money is the fuel by which we can continue to gamble, to continue to stay in action. But it's really about the thrill, no matter what you're gambling for. It's about feeling different. Mm. You had some losses, but you deleted all the accounts. The losses are a punch to the ego. Of course, they're a punch to the ego. I mean, we wanted to win, right? And we lost. But that's just how it's supposed to go. We trick ourselves into thinking that we can win. Proud of you for deleting the accounts, my friend. I'd go a step further and do self exclusions, which is voluntarily banning yourself from re downloading or re signing up for those apps for an extended amount of time. But be proud of yourself for making that first step. And if this account can be of any use to you in your recovery journey, it would make me very happy. This account is aimed at helping you to avoid making the same mistakes that I did, and to anyone that gambles, hopefully helping you avoid getting to that point that I did. So drop a like, check out some videos that I put out about leaving gambling in the past, and I hope that it can be helpful for you, my friend. I'm on your team here. Would I be better off placing straight bets like money line or over unders instead of parlays? I'm going to answer this question in two ways. Statistically, you will lose your money either way, but it will happen more slowly if you place straight bets like money line. So in terms of lasting longer, it's better. But the truth is, in developing a gambling problem, it doesn't really matter what kind of gambling you're doing. It You can develop one. So you're not better off at all. It'll just change the timeline, if that makes sense. Let's see. So if anyone has any questions about gambling, gambling addiction, or addiction recovery, please feel free to drop a comment on this video. If you're watching live, I want you to do me one more big favor. I'm going to ask one more time. My hands are out. I'm begging for it. Hit the like button. That's all I really need from you. I don't need money. I don't need really anything at all except you to just engage with the content, leave some comments, leave some likes, and hang out with me. I need the attention. Yeah, I tricked myself into believing that the stock market wasn't gambling because it was using intellect, right? I'd be able to figure it out because I'm smart, or this is highbrow investing. This isn't gambling. But I was treating it like a fucking casino. It was terrible. Yeah. The fact that you can answer questions like that prove that you've been there and done that. Hell yeah, I did, Kevin. I don't want to go back. I was gambling every day for like 8 hours a day. By the time I stopped gambling, I had my phone. I was, say, at the gym, right? I had my AirPods in. I was spinning slots on my phone, and I'd set it to auto spin. I'd flip it, and I'd start hitting my set, right? And based on the sound that was coming in through my AirPods, I knew how much money that spin had won or lost. That's how sick I was, that I was gambling all day as much as I could. And I knew based on sounds what the dollar amounts were, not even having to look at the screen anymore and knowing that. If you can relate to that, you very much have a gambling problem, but there's hope on the end of it, right? I screwed up a lot. I made a lot of mistakes. Now I'm trying to use what happened to me to make sure it doesn't happen to other people that see this content. Hardest part for you is accepting the losses. Every day you think about the money and what you could have bought with it. Well, you can keep doing that and keep feeling bad, and then eventually, kick yourself so much that you go back to gambling to try to make up for it. Or you could do what I did and say, I screwed up. I made terrible decisions, but here's what happened. And I'm going to use that to avoid having it happen again. Sounds corny. Use your mistakes. Use that feeling of guilt, that loss, to avoid doing it again, and stop kicking yourself. You can't change it now. You can't. What else? What are you gaining by feeling the shit about it? I get it. It's not easy to snap your fingers and forget that it happened. Use it. Use it so that it's worth something. Use it like Imagine it was tuition at the school of being an idiot, right? Or school of recovery. Let's be nicer. I had to lose this much money to learn, to get certified, and learn that this was going to always happen if I go back and gamble. I feel like my job is gambling. Uh, your job's not gambling. You don't have a job if that's the case. But I told myself that too, and I get the feeling. It's only a matter of time until those coin flips go poorly. That's all I can say on that. Yes, reverse withdrawals. Reverse withdrawals happened the very last day that I gambled. So, for those that don't know what this is, essentially, it's when a casino will allow you to deposit instantly. When you go to withdraw, there's a delay on it. Say it's 24 hours. You have to wait 24 hours for your withdrawal to process. But there's a giant button, huge button that says cancel withdrawal. Instantly, the money's back in your account. You can bet it. So they delay the withdrawals intentionally so that you have a temptation to stop the withdrawal and gamble that money back. I absolutely did it. The last day that I gambled, I had a sports bet in the morning. I felt guilty about it because I had just gotten 8 months clean from gambling and then went back to it. That sports bet I won, and I wanted to get that money out, so I went to withdraw it. 24-hour delay. Now this was where I made the real bad mistake. And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure they'll be reasonable. Let me just go to the casino, go to the cage and withdraw it in person. Like they'll obviously process it right away." Yeah, they didn't. And I spent the next, oh, it was like 12 hours on a gambling binge where I put myself into debt for 6 months. Do I watch sports anymore? A little bit here and there. I still like watching the Philly teams, but like football's gotten pretty boring for me. I still like basketball. I'll watch like a championship of pretty much any game, but not nearly what I used to watch. It's just not that interesting to me anymore. But I still do like going somewhere with my friends and watching a game. But it's not about the game; it's about being with my friends. If that makes sense. You have to play the tape through in your head, and you have to remember the consequences. A lot of times when you get some time clean in gambling, you'll start to remember the times you won and forget about the times you lost. Remember all of it because you lose way more often than you win. Thank you so much for being here, Ozzy. You just discovered me today. I'm so happy to have you in the community. I've been making content here on YouTube, and this is also going live on Facebook for about exactly 2 years. I made my first YouTube video, I think it was January 2nd or 3rd of 2023. So it's been a long road to get to this point, but I've posted every single day, I think, since at least like probably May of 2023. Like 6 TikToks a day. I'm talking like craziness to get this message out. So to anyone that's here supporting, like I really appreciate you. Yes, Luke, I'm live. I really appreciate you being here and supporting the community once again, my friend. Thank you so much. Let's see. After gambling for a year, I am sure there's a lot of cheating, especially on esports. There are a lot of fake tournaments that make you mad. Yeah, I mean, there definitely could be cheating. There definitely could be manipulation. But the thing is, there doesn't need to be for you to lose. Statistically, mathematically, you will lose money in the long run if you gamble on any game, on any sports bet, because every single bet contains a house edge. Is it rigged? Is it cheating? I don't know, maybe, but it doesn't have to be for you to lose. That's what's important to remember. You're gonna eventually lose money. Guys, we got a pretty big crowd here. This is pretty good for YouTube, Facebook Live. I appreciate you being here, for leaving likes on the video, for asking questions. We're gonna be live for just a couple more minutes, but if you have any questions, feel free to drop them because I'm gonna be answering them. Don't be shy. I'll answer pretty much anything except the one question that I don't answer is how much money did you lose? The reasoning for not answering this question, it's not because I'm embarrassed of it. It's not because I think it's small or I think it's necessarily a large amount of money. It was a lot for me. But if I say a dollar amount, do you know what will happen in the brain of a problem gambler? Say I say a dollar amount and it's more than what you lost. You will immediately say to yourself, "Oh, he lost more than me. So he's a gambling addict. I haven't lost that much yet. So I'm okay. I'm not addicted. Rob's addicted." It gives people a reason to continue gambling. So instead, I'd say that I went into debt 6 times over the course of 6 years to the point where I had to work a second job to pay it off. And if that doesn't explain it, you likely didn't need the information from the start, or you're not yet ready for it, maybe. Richard, thank you for watching the content. I really appreciate it. I just started making podcast form videos here on YouTube to try to share other people's stories of addiction as well as my own. So if you've been seeing some content, I really appreciate you giving it a watch. Look at all the celebrities that have been hired. I was a little sad about Neil Patrick Harris. I love How I Met Your Mother. Seeing him go to the dark side, so to speak, was a little bit tough. But I think what we'll see is just this mass apology from celebrities in a couple of years that got involved with promoting gambling at this point, because there's just so much damage being done that's being overlooked. And I don't think that, I honestly just don't think that most of them know how much damage is being done. Let's see. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop and let me know what you're thinking. It's crazy how people compare. Absolutely is, but it's justifying, right? I would have done the same thing. I did the same thing. It's like, oh, well, he had bigger losses, so he's a worse addict. This idea that a gambling addiction is measured in dollar amount is really, really backwards, and it doesn't fully understand, doesn't fully understand what addiction actually is. If you have a gambling addiction, you're losing all of your money eventually. That could be $1 million, it could be $100, but if you lose all your money, you have zero. And so, or less, or if you went into debt less, right? It doesn't matter how much you lost. It matters what's happening in your life. Been watching the podcast. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Drake, gambling is terrible for young people. I think what's terrible about it is just the misrepresentation. It's not that he's gambling. It's not that he's normalizing it either. It's just like he makes it look like you're going to become a millionaire when you gamble. It's just so shit. 4 things to stop gambling: find alternatives for your time, limit your access to money, limit your access to casinos by doing a self-exclusion, and go to support group meetings. Can I get more female speakers? Yes, Joanne, absolutely. The next video that I'm posting, which will be posted tomorrow here on the YouTube platform, will be a podcast with a woman named Tara. There are 2 more after that that are women, a woman named Alex and a woman named Gigi. And those will all get posted within the next couple of weeks. So make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss those. What is worse, sports betting or slots? In terms of the addictiveness, there really isn't a difference. I truly believe that you get hooked to gambling. If you get hooked to gambling, you get hooked based on what your preference is, right? If you like slots, you'll get hooked to slots. If you like sports betting, you'll get hooked to sports betting. More people that play slots are gambling addicts by math, but it's just because slots are the most popular game in the casino. We touched on this a couple of times. And so what is the point of watching YouTube gambling? Some people say it helps them to want to gamble less. Some people live vicariously through it like I did. I really don't think it's a good thing. And so I don't at this point. I think it's just continuing the problem in a different format. Roberto, can I explain how RTP works on slots? I'm pretty sure you're a hater, but I'll answer your question because it's an important one. So RTP is return to player, and over a very long period of time, if the return to player is 96%, then that machine is netting a 4% profit on each bet, theoretically, over the course of billions of spins. So people think that it means you're going to make 96% back every time. That's just the overall return over a very long period of time. This is an interesting perspective. This guy, Bossman Jack, is a good deterrent for gambling because he's showing himself gambling, he's promoting it, and he's losing, and he's getting arrested, and he's throwing these giant tantrums and being outrageous. I guess you can say that it's like a good deterrent. I think it's like, that's a tough one. I just don't think it's good anyways. It's just showing bad things, but I guess it's better than glorifying it. So it is what it is. But We have reached the 59-minute mark and 30 seconds, so we're going to be calling it a day today. Thank you so much to everyone that watched this content. Do me a favor and leave a like on the video. Smash that subscribe or follow button if you are interested in seeing future content. Thank you to everyone that asked a question. We had lots that came in. Some were good, some were goofy, some were really deep. And I appreciate everyone for taking the time out of their day, whether you're watching this live or on a replay right now, to come in and talk to me and ask questions and interact. So I hope that everyone enjoys the rest of their day. And to anyone that's watching, let's just keep getting better together, one day at a time.